What does it mean to be human? And if you've ever contemplated that question, that's what anthropology is. So I'm back out here running again. I'm at this historical marker that talks about how indigenous cultures lived in this area. So there was bird middens, and if you just look around at this site behind me and just contemplate what it was like to live in this area, that's ultimately the types of questions that anthropology tries to answer. So within anthropology, there are 4 main subfields. Those subfields are cultural anthropology, archaeology, linguistic anthropology, and biological anthropology. So you take all of those subfields together and you start to build relationships between each of the subfields over time and linking historic people and prehistoric people to modern people. Cultural anthropologists study contemporary cultures. So contemporary is just another word for modern, basically the people who are living now. So cultural anthropologists, they study contemporary cultures to understand how they live, how they interact with the people around them, with their environments, what their religions are, what their rituals are. And through that, you can have a broader view of how those people live and how they are different, or how the difference, you can start to spot the differences between one culture to another culture to another culture. And then you can also spot the similarities. And that's what cultural anthropologists do. They do that through observations. They embed themselves within a community to just observe how they live and what their daily routines are and whatnot. They do it through participant interviews. Whenever a cultural anthropologist wants to actually get a deeper understanding of something that they've observed, they can start interviewing groups of people to get a better understanding. And they do this from the point of view of an open mind. They try not to put their own biases into what they know from their culture onto another culture. So whenever they do these participant interviews, they try to leave their biases at the door and just listen to what the people have to say and not interject their own views. Another subfield of anthropology is archaeology, and archaeology is probably the most widely known subfield, simply because it's been portrayed in movies like Indiana Jones, and those types of movies have likely been the inspiration of many archaeologists to actually get into their field. Archaeology studies the material remains left behind by historic and prehistoric cultures. So things like tools, whether they're made of stone or wood or bones. They're buildings, remains of buildings. So whether they lived in them or whether they used them to store food or store other things. You have things like copper lights and rock middens and debitage, which are all just things that copper lights are fossilized poop. Debitage and rock middens are essentially the trash that we discard. that we've left behind. Things like that tell a story about how we cooked, how we made tools, and individually, those things don't really tell a story. But if you take all of those items into a context, so where they're found, and you look at the environment surrounding it, you can kind of get the bigger picture of how past cultures lived. And then you can also take the cultural anthropology, the oral traditions from those cultures, and even form a more complete picture of what past cultures may have been like. One of the things that, as gotten into anthropology, is I start noticing things like this, which is a stone wall from early settlers in the area. I didn't really notice those types of things before I really got into anthropology. And you notice things like this, which are wild grapes. You kind of wonder, like, what did the early cultures in this area harvest those grapes for one of their food sources, and have those grapes changed over time, or were the grapes introduced later on? Those types of things. I can show you, I'll put some images, a backpacking trip that I took in Utah over the spring break, where as you start paying attention to your surroundings, and you think about past cultures and what people probably did and how they lived, you start to realize that there might be an area over here that somebody may have lived at, or somebody may have used as a temporary shelter, and you go to that area, and I found lithic flakes from where more indigenous cultures were making their stone tools. So those are some of the debutage that was left behind. You notice things like rock, either paintings or petroglyphs, so basically packed carvings into the drawings into walls. You notice things like granaries or housing units where they built rooms out of stones to live in or to store things in. I even noticed ceramic pottery shards. New day, new trail. Where I left off yesterday, I was talking about archaeology and the artifacts that I found in Utah while backpacking there. If you want me to do a more detailed video over that information, let me know in the comments and I will put together a video on it. I've been studying the petroglyphs and trying to determine their meaning of the panel. And I have some information on the potsherd as well. So, biological anthropology is a study of our biology and our DNA. We use this information to determine how we have evolved over time. We also use that information to determine our migration patterns. So what linguistic anthropology does is it studies structures of language and how people write and how they talk, and helps preserve language in many aspects. There are languages that are on the verge of going extinct, or they aren't widely known or used anymore. So they're helping to preserve those languages and working with the cultures that use those languages to help spread the languages through those groups. Language is also used to tell the histories of cultures. So in Egypt, you have the Rosetta Stone, which is a decipher for the hieroglyphs. You have the codices in Mesoamerica, which describes or deciphers the language of the Maya. And with that information, you can grasp a deeper understanding of a culture because you have their written history. And if you take information from all of those subfields together, you can get a more complete picture of cultures and how they interacted with each other, how they interacted with their environments, how they lived, their religions, whether they were small nomads of hunter and gatherers or whether they were an agricultural society. And you start to get the bigger picture of the cultures themselves. That is a wrap for what I intend on covering today. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them in the comment section. If you have any suggestions on topics you want me to discuss or want me to take a dive into, leave another comment and make a suggestion, and I will do my best to get to it. Until next time, like, subscribe, do all that funny stuff, and I will talk to you next time. Thank you for watching.